ADHD is all about executive functions. ADHD is not an attention disorder. It's not about hyperactivity. It's not about inattentiveness. ADHD is executive functioning developmental disorder. It is a disorder of executive functioning. And executive functioning is not time management and organization. It is self-regulation.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Tony.
And I'm Casey.
And welcome to Anthony's Way, The Road to Kindness, and our podcast, YouTube channel, The Way Forward, A Kindness Mission. And we're excited to have you here with us today. And we want to thank a very special sponsor for our podcast and for this month, Vicinity PLLC. They are pediatricians and family care, and they are located in Raleigh, North Carolina, Cameron, and Huntersville, North Carolina. Great pediatricians, and we thank them for being our sponsors. Today we have a wonderful leader and recognized leader in the ADHD space, Mike McLeod, and he's got some terrific recognition. And before we turn it over to him to chat with us, I want to just give him some kudos here. First off, he's recognized as the Best Executive Function Coaching Service Award. He's the winner of the Development Service Hero Award by Mainline Parent. He's an award-winning keynote speaker and school trainer. And the really powerful thing is he has over 1,000 parent testimonials, and he's built a great team. Welcome, Mike. Thank you for being with us and spending some time with us today.
Yeah, thank you two so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here. Always love chatting with you guys. You guys always bring great energy and meaning to this incredibly powerful cause. ADHD has just become such a buzzword these days, and it's all over social media. And as parenting becomes more of a science in this country, we're learning more about, diagnoses rates are skyrocketing, awareness is skyrocketing. So it's really important to spread real information and give parents the information they need. And my name is Michael McLeod. I'm the owner of GrowNOW ADHD. I'm an ADHD and executive functioning specialist. I've been doing this work since 2015, and GrowNOW services students and families all across the country and internationally. We provide one-to-one executive functioning coaching, as well as the number one recommendation for ADHD, which is parent training. So we do lots and lots of parent training and parent coaching, social executive functioning groups, a summer camp. It's really all about just spreading the true information about what ADHD truly is, what executive function truly is, and what these kids need to develop these crucial skills, because executive functions are the greatest predictor of success for all human beings. You need executive functions to be successful, and that's what ADHD is all about.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got great. That's terrific. And so why don't you share with the group how you got started, Mike, and and also, do you have ADHD, and how does that impact you? Just give the group that's listening your story, please.
Yep. I sure do. Struggle with that every day, mostly in the social realm and things like that. But yep, I definitely do. And that's not the entire reason I got into this work. So I started my career as I started wanting to become a teacher, and then slowly transferred into speech and language pathology and became a certified speech and language pathologist, because I saw that working with students one-on-one was a great way to focus on quality of life, not teaching them, things that they may not use in life, like math, science, social studies, things like that. This was a chance to work with students one-on-one and improve their overall quality of life. And it was during my time as a speech and language pathologist where I did a lot of work with a group called the Focus Foundation down in Annapolis, Maryland, and Children's Hospital of DC, and great doctors and neuropsychs and incredible professionals down there that work with boys and girls with chromosomal disorders. So it started as a speech and language, mission, and I ended up learning so much about ADHD and executive functions there. And then from there, I very quickly learned that there's really nothing out there for these kids. Teachers and therapists and pediatricians really don't get very in-depth training on what ADHD and executive functions truly are, and these parents are floundering. They're sending their kids to very outdated therapies, very outdated things that aren't even real clinical recommendations or research-based recommendations. So that motivated me to create the GrowNOW internal skills model. And we did a year-long research study on this model and how it improves executive functions and resiliency combined with parent training. And it saw great success, and everything really has expanded from there. So utilizing this unique internal skills model has really shown to improve quality of life, not just for the child, but also for the parents and the entire family.
That's awesome.
Do you do the children and the parents together, like even with like the older children, or is it a separate thing?
Sometimes. It all really depends. So nothing we ever do is rigid or set in stone. So it's not like, oh, this is our approach, and it's not a strict, rigid curriculum like Module 1, Module 2. Mm-hmm. Everything we do, we tailor towards the unique individual and the unique family. Mm-hmm. So one thing that people have to understand about ADHD, we've done a really good job understanding this about autism is a spectrum. Mm-hmm. You know, there's some people with autism that are going to need support their entire lives, you know, may never be able to go to college or, you know, work independently, are always going to need lots of support and lots of supervision. And then you have some people with autism that go on to, you know, accomplish great things and do great things. So we understand the spectrum with autism, but it's really also that spectrum with ADHD. There are no two ADHD kids that are exactly the same. Nope. It's a very, very wide spectrum from mild to moderate to severe. And then you bring in unique personality characteristics into each child. No two are the same. So sometimes we do it together, but I would probably say most of the time it's separate. So within that, you know, it's one 60-minute session a week, no contracts, no commitments. It's a week-by-week service. And most of the time it's probably 30 minutes with the child, 30 minutes with the parent. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the parent has so much difficulty getting the child on at all because they're so therapy adverse at this point. Right. And they're so strong-willed against anything non-preferred or non-screen based that we do parent training only with no child. Mm-hmm. So we always tailor it towards a unique family. And sometimes we'll meet with the child for a full 60 minutes or the parent for a full 60 minutes. It can change week by week.
So why don't you just fill everybody in? What does the internal model all encompass?
Sure. So it's really just focused on the most up-to-date research on what executive functioning and ADHD truly are. So in the past, we looked at both ADHD and executive functioning as these external behavioral-based disorder. So ADHD was all about, you know, kids who couldn't maintain their attention, and hyperactive kids who just ran around and had ants in their pants and were so hyperactive and running around, and kids who were inattentive and daydreamed and staring out the window. So everything was based on what we could see with our eyes. And it was the same with executive functions. Still to this day, you use the term executive functions and people think you mean time management and organization, mm-hmm. and messy backpacks and messy folders and messy bedrooms. Mm-hmm. So everything was based on external symptoms. But in reality, ADHD is all about executive functions. ADHD is not an attention disorder. It's not about hyperactivity. It's not about inattentiveness. ADHD is executive functioning developmental disorder. It is a disorder of executive functioning. And executive functioning is not time management and organization. It is self-regulation. This is what Dr. Russell Barkley talks about, who is the worldwide leader on ADHD, second to none, the best of the best. Definitely read his books, watch his YouTube videos. He's the best. He talks about how it's really self-regulation deficit disorder, not hyperactivity. It's the inability to self-regulate your emotions, your body, your behavior, your language in various environments. So it's not about kids who can't maintain their attention or kids who can't maintain their body. It's about self-regulation. So the internal executive functions are self-regulation, obviously, of emotions, language, body, behavior, the ability to regulate those things, self-motivation towards non-preferred tasks, and of course in today's world it's self-motivation towards non-screen-based tasks, mm-hmm. self-evaluation and the ability to learn from past experiences and apply it to the present moment and not repeat mistakes over and over, and then self-awareness. the ability to recognize that you have an effect on yourself and others. And the things you say and the things you do may impact you and may impact the people around you. So those are the 4 pillars of executive functions, and that's what creates the external symptoms. So think about it. Like, for years, we thought that executive functioning was messy backpacks, messy folders, messy bedrooms, but you're going to have a messy backpack and messy folders unless you're first self-aware that that's even a problem. Then you have to self-regulate and self-motivate enough to sit there and do that incredibly boring task of cleaning a backpack. And then you have to be able to self-evaluate and think to yourself, hey, wait a second, in 2 class periods, I'm going to be in science class. My teacher's going to ask me to take out my science notebook. Everyone's going to do it immediately, and I'm going to be the one person ripping out dirty, crumpled papers out of my backpack for 15 minutes. I'm not going to like the way that feels, so I better organize it and clean it now. So it's these lack of internal skills that create these external symptoms that we focused on inappropriately for decades.
Yeah, I tell you, we love Dr. Barkley.
Oh, the best.
We listened to him and watched him quite a bit and learned a lot from him when we were doing our research on how we wanted to structure our Anthony's Way to Road to Kindness. But I have one question for you on the self-awareness. Where does, and just the model, where does helping kids to pause, to take a second and step back from an action that they're going to take? How do you help those kids and the parents too? I mean, it takes both.
Yeah, so that's yep. So that is self-awareness.
Yeah.
So that's the first step of self-awareness, is that inhibition. So many people like to use that very vague term of stop and think,
Right.
and that's really what what all adults want to just scream at ADHD kids and teens is, why can't you ever just stop and think? Can't you stop and think? But their brain is, like Dr. Russell Barkley says, it's built for stimulus response. There's a stimulus, respond to it. There's a stimulus, respond to it, which is exactly why you can't talk about ADHD and not also talk about screen addiction, because the touch screen is stimulus response. So they get heavily addicted to screens, just like a gambling addict or an alcoholic or whatever it may be. So they get addicted to those things because it thrives on that stimulus response, instant gratification, time blindness of the ADHD brain. So really, what we need to do is, the phrase stop and think is the most vague phrase of all time. It's really stop and use your executive functioning. And if we want to be even more specific, it's stop and use your non-verbal working memory and verbal working memory, which in easier terms is stop and visualize to yourself, stop and talk to yourself, and then do. And that's what adults and non-ADHD people do without even thinking. They're constantly using their non-verbal working memory, visual imagery, hindsight, and visualizing the past and learning from the past, using their non-verbal working memory, foresight, and visualizing the future so they can plan, prioritize, problem solve, and delay gratification. And then they're talking to themselves, and that helps them to better educate themselves on what choice to make now. So instead of always going with plan A, they're now going with a more healthy and more educated plan B, plan C, plan D.
Great. That's cool. So let's talk about the kids that you do work with that do have challenges, right? With the screens, and how do you get them to move away from the screen addiction and get them active, get them moving in, doing other exercises, doing outside of the screen time? What's your approach there, if you could help everybody?
So you don't get the kids to do it, because that's absolutely impossible. So like, you don't have an alcoholic with bottles of alcohol sitting around. You don't have a gambling addict spending a couple hours a day in a casino. This is where the parent training comes in. And you have to coach the parents to stop being scared of their child, stop being scared of behaviors, and do what you have to do. So that's where the parent training comes in. And unless the parents step in and cancel the phone plan, get rid of the Xbox, get rid of the PlayStation, get rid of the Switch, get rid of the iPad, get rid of all of those things that are not helping, then nothing's going to change. And they're going to continue that screen addiction, and all of the money they're spending on therapy and coaching, or all the other things, are pretty much being flushed down the toilet, because all the free time's being spent in the virtual world. So unless the parents step in and be authoritative and do what they need to do, nothing's going to get better. And in today's world, parents are incredibly scared to step into their parental authority, do what they know is right, to the point where they'll start convincing themselves of reasons why they shouldn't do it. They'll say, "Oh, I can't take his phone away, he'll lose all his friends. I can't take his phone away, he'll overindulge later in life. I can't take his phone away, he won't have anything to talk about when he's with his friends," because all they do is talk about phones and memes and Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft. So that they just convince themselves of all of these false cognitive distortions to keep themselves from having to persevere through the 1, 2, 3 weeks of withdrawal behaviors, because that's really what it is. Your child is withdrawing from a drug, and the parents don't want to deal with those withdrawals for 3 weeks. They'd rather deal with screen time fights for years and years and years than deal with 3 weeks of hell, basically. So that's the problem. So unless parents step in and do something about it and create very significant screen time structure and fully eliminate unnecessary screens from the child's life, then it doesn't improve.
Yeah, I think when, especially when Anthony was in high school, I think we did a pretty good job of cutting down his screen time, because he was very active socially and physically, with sports and things like that. Obviously we did allow him to have, we always said you can never have a TV in your room, you never have a computer in your room. Well, we did fail on that one, because he did have a computer in his room. But the thing that I think was the most detrimental was him having his phone with him at bedtime. We didn't realize that, and we say to this day, if he hadn't had his phone that night, he probably would still be with us. But so I do want to ask you, how do you feel about the education department? They want to go more towards screen time and AI and things like that. If it's for instructional purposes, is that better or?
Not in the slightest. It is the worst. So all of the ed tech over the past 10 years, giving kids personal laptops, making school more tech-based, is the worst thing to ever happen to education in history, and that's saying something, because our education system has been broken for decades. So giving kids personal laptops and saying, oh, kids have to learn how to use computers. Computers are the way of the world. Where all of the adults right now that are working in tech and work on computers for 8, 10 hours a day didn't have personal laptops in school and didn't have smartphones growing up. So this whole concept that they have to be on computers and know how to use computers is absolute nonsense. We're creating addicts. Ever since ed tech became so big in this country, we've seen skyrocketing school refusal of kids just refusing to go to school. We've seen skyrocketing school anxiety. We've seen a massive increase in behaviors and fights at school and detention and all sorts of anxiety issues, and more IEPs and more 504s and more diagnoses, and the need for more socio-emotional help. Deep down, the teachers absolutely hate the ed tech. They want it gone, but the superintendents and the leadership of the school force them to do it, because all of the standardized testing now is on technology, and they want the kids to have as much practice on the tech as possible. And all of those standardized testing reflects on the school leadership. So that's the way education works in this country, is the students' scores on standardized tests reflect on the leadership and those individuals that are being funded by the taxpayers. So they need to make sure they get their retirement packages. So better keep as much ed tech as possible. But overall, it's an absolute mess, and it's something I'm very, very passionate about. And I'm coaching parents on how to opt out of ed tech and not have it be a part. I've consulted this past year, the 2024-2025 school year, I have consulted with over 500 schools. Wow. And over 70% of them had an instance where students were looking at pornography at school, on the school computer, on the school Wi-Fi. Bullying has increased because kids are going on Google Docs and bullying each other and sending each other messages during school. I've observed over 300 classes this past year, and not once was I not in a class where a kid was not gaming in class on Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, ChatGPT, addictingmathgames.com, Geometry Dash, was not doing that in the middle of class. There's more off-task behavior than on-task behavior. Giving kids open access to the internet all day, every day is one of the most dangerous things you can do. The real world is safe. So don't believe in the whole stranger danger 24-hour news cycle. The real world for kids has never been safer. The virtual world is the most dangerous place for kids, and we're giving them far too much access to it, especially in this world of rising AI now and jobs getting cut because of AI. Computer skills don't matter anymore because AI is taking over those jobs. The skill of the future is people skills, and the more we shove technology in kids' faces, we're destroying their people skills.
Anthony was very, very social, which I know is not always the case, but he was very social, and I do think that had a lot to do with his screen time and things like that. He would rather be in a room with a person than be on screen with a person.
That's quite rare for ADHD, but that's fantastic.
I mean, that was what we wanted him to do. We had him in martial arts. We had him playing lacrosse. We had him out.
Beautiful.
I really hate it. And the old times where you used to, go out and ride your bicycle and not come home and stay out all kind with your friends. I mean, we wanted him to be out, But then as he got older, some of that changed. So how do you control parent? How do you help parents?
How do you control parents?
How do you help parents though to get over that hump of saying, dealing with that 3 week?
Yeah, it's all about coaching them and giving them that support. And the best thing that parents can do is parents have to recognize that nobody sees the worst ADHD behaviors besides mom and dad. So there's a whole concept on social media that kids go to school and they're masking all day and they're holding it in, and then they come home and then they let loose on their parents because they're so exhausted because they were masking all day. That's total nonsense. They are responding well to the structure at school, the accountability at school, and the conditional relationships at school. At home, it is the only two unconditional love relationships that child will ever have in their entire life. The only two people that love that kid more than those people love themselves, and that's mom and dad. And that's what it's all about. So mom and dad always see the worst of ADHD behaviors. ADHD really isn't, most often, not a disorder of school and academics, which is what we thought it was forever. It's really a disorder in the home. So being able to self-regulation towards parents and the ability to initiate, persist, and complete non-preferred tasks in the home. So one of the best things that parents can do is they have to bring somebody else in during those 1, 2, 3 weeks of anger, frustration, property destruction, all of those things for those 3 weeks of withdrawal behaviors is bring someone else into the home. Bring in an aunt, an uncle, a neighbor, a coach, a social worker. If there's somebody else besides mom and dad in the home, you're much less likely to see horrible, horrible behaviors. But the fear of your child's behaviors cannot keep you from doing what you know you have to do.
Right.
So as a parent of an ADHD child, sometimes it is very easy to be permissive with them because you feel like we've even said it, like he beat himself up so bad, we couldn't really come down hard on him or, whatever, like for discipline and things like that. It is easy to make excuses for your ADHD child, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the biggest reasons for that is that, the way the ADHD brain is wired, there are two specific things that give them a dopamine rush. So the ADHD brain produces much less dopamine than the neurotypical brain, but there are two things that give them a massive dopamine rush. Number one, of course, is screens, which we talked about. But the second thing that gives them lots of dopamine is conflict and negative attention seeking. So, and especially that's towards parents. So when they create conflict, they create arguments, they create negotiations, that gives them a dopamine rush and makes them feel in control. And I always have to preface by saying this. It is not a character flaw. I'm not saying your child is a bad person. This has nothing to do with character or personality or the quality of their character.
Well, they're very smart.
Yes, they're simply doing what works. They're doing what feels good. So that's not a character flaw. They're not a bad person, but it's not attention deficit disorder. It's negative attention stimulation disorder. They are stimulated by the arguing, the conflict, the negotiating. It makes them feel good. The ADHD child, when they're home around the unconditional love of mom and dad, they want the stage, the microphone, the spotlight, all eyes on them. They want all the attention, all the focus, all the control. So when you go to an ADHD child and you say to them, go put your shoes on, we have to go, what's more stimulating to their brain? Is it to just put their shoes on right away and hear a quick good job, or to say, no, I'm not doing that, and have mom and dad chase them around the house for 3 hours? That's more stimulating. So when when it comes to ADHD parenting, there's 3 things that instantly increase the cortisol levels of the parent: morning routine, evening routine, and homework. Those 3 things are every parent's worst nightmare. And so many parents, with the best of intentions, will sit with the child during homework time and have them open their Google Classroom or their Schoology, whatever. But they don't realize when you're there physically, they would rather get into a 3-hour fight, like crying, screaming fight, than do 5 minutes of homework. That's what their brain would rather do. They want the constant fighting, and it keeps them from doing that boring task. So in so many ways, you talk about coming down hard on them. I'm also not a proponent for consequences and discipline and things like that. Really, the best consequence for an ADHD child is to lose your attention, for you not to respond to their negativity, to unplug their brain from negative attention stimulation, to walk away, not respond, and just show them, I'm not going to engage with you unless I see that you're ready.
And so you meet the I just saw this on one of your Instagrams. You meet the turmoil with calmness, right? Is that that's the best way, and just not to engage in the same behavior?
It's called affective calmness. So the number one rule, Dr. Russell Barkley talks about this as well, the number one rule in all of ADHD parenting is language makes dysregulation worse. The more you talk, the more you lecture, the more words you use, you're making the fight worse. So that they want you to talk. They want your lectures. I think we all watched a little too much Full House growing up with all those little heart-to-hearts and those talking.
We did.
So none. The more you talk, the more you're making it worse. You are unintentionally reinforcing the behaviors when you talk. So the best thing to do is to walk away and do not engage, and you are modeling dysregulation. Kids learn by watching you, not listening to you.
So how long does it take for you when you're coaching a parent for them to get this, to understand what you're doing? Do some parents change? Like, give us a success story and give us the opposite. Like, give us a success story. Can you get parents to turn quickly and change their habits? Because it's a habit too. If I'm argumentative, I'm going to argue with my child. If I'm calm and then hopefully things will calm down, and that's what we try to do too. But give us a success story if you can.
Sorry,
Sure. Well, we know that ADHD is hereditary, so most of the parents we work with have ADHD themselves. And we started this podcast by saying every single child with ADHD is different, and it's the same with the parents. Every single parent is different as well. So it's not like there's no average. There's no like, oh, it's going to take this long. Every single parent is different. But we have worked with many, many parents with ADHD, and we coach them up on exactly what to do about the screen addictions. So we've had kids that were just like, every waking second on Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, every waking second on their smartphone, all of those things. We have worked with literally hundreds and hundreds of families that went from a smartphone to a dumb phone. And the parents immediately took the Xbox, the PlayStation, the Switch, sold it back to GameStop, sold the iPad on Facebook Marketplace, and they made their house no longer look like a casino or an arcade. So they got rid of all of those things, and we gave them all the tools of how to persevere through those 3 weeks and how to stay strong and how to bring people in the home and get the support and utilize your tribe, as we say, and enlist supporters and all of those things. And by the end of 3 weeks, they start to see a completely brand new regulated child, someone who is sleeping better, eating better, engaging better. The number one fear is, if I take his phone away, he's going to lose his friends. When in reality, they end up making more friends because they're more regulated, they're more attentive, they're more focused on peers, greater perspective taking skills, and they're more engaged, and they're spending more time out in the real world, where many kids still are, at the park, at the playground, on the basketball court, and they end up making more friends. So there's hundreds of success stories on my Instagram. You click on the testimonial saved stories of families that eliminated screens and reaped benefits. benefits. In all my years of doing this since 2016, we have never worked with a single family that eliminated screens, persevered through those behaviors, and ended up regretting it. And the fascinating thing is there's been many, many times where the kid ends up doing so well and improves so much that parents end up saying to the child, hey, you're doing great. I think you're ready for an Xbox again. I think you can handle it now. You're mature enough. And the kids end up saying, you know what? I don't want it. I don't like who I was when I had that in my life.
Right.
I don't like who I was. We had one kid we worked with a couple of years back where the mom kept the Xbox in the house, just hid it under lock and key, and then wanted to give it back to him. And the kid said, no, I actually want to invite all of my friends over, bring the Xbox in the backyard, and I want to smash it and blow it up with them. And he had all his friends over, and they smashed it in the backyard, and there you go. He never played Xbox again. So when you detox their brain from screens, when you detox their brain from negative stimulation, the ADHD brain is capable of anything. There is a big theme going on social media that ADHD is so debilitating and they're going to need constant accommodations and constant support. If we really make sure we bring back play, varied experiences, interpersonal relationships, real, boundaries, parenting, authoritative parenting, not authoritarian parenting, authoritative parenting. When we really follow the correct, democratic, reciprocal, 50-50 parenting, that's what's best for kids. And it teaches them, hey, I can do things on my own without my parents constantly on my back.
I wish we could go back 20 years.
Yeah. And
have your Instagrams and all of that, even though I have to watch a screen to see you on your Instagram.
Of course.
But it really, the information that you have is so powerful. I wish that we had that when we were raising Anthony. I think we did, like I said, I think we did okay on our own, but it would have been so much more effective, having your tools and having the information that you have.
Well, now you guys have a voice and a reach that is spreading an unbelievable message to families in need. So it's so easy to look back and do the what if.
Right.
But you guys have created an unbelievable voice, a real leader voice in this field of, the voice of Anthony's Way and the mission of Anthony's Way is so unbelievably needed. And you guys and your leadership in this mission, nobody else would have been able to do it the way you two are doing it. So I think that this is something that you guys were kind of destined to do.
Thanks, we appreciate that.
We're not experts on ADHD, obviously, so that's why it's important for us to bring experts on like yourself to help us explain things better and to give parents the help that we wish that we had. That really is the whole reason that we started all of this.
So let's talk about how you get the schools involved, because I really was excited about how you did that, because we have a kindness program that we chatted with you about, workshops in the schools. But how do you get the schools involved to work with your group?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really my number one role now as I travel the country and internationally, going to various schools, private schools, entire school districts, groups of professionals, whatever it may be, doing professional development on ADHD and executive functioning. So I know during my master's level programming, we learned about executive functioning for maybe a day, an hour, maybe it was on one slide. We learned about ADHD and executive functioning. And it's the same thing for teachers in schools. They're not getting anything. They're getting their master's degree in education or bachelor's degree, whatever it may be, and they don't know anything about ADHD and executive functioning.
Right.
And when you're a student getting your bachelor's and master's, you're paying a lot of money, you're taking out a lot of student loans, but you can't dictate what's taught in the classroom. You don't get to choose what's on that PowerPoint slide when you go into class. So it's not the teacher's fault. It's definitely not the teacher's fault. We're not doing any teacher blaming, but they are not being prepared. And there's skyrocketing diagnoses rates, and without executive functions, you can't learn, you can't attain skills. So the way school is memorize this information, regurgitate it onto a test, completely forget it, and move on to the next topic.
Right.
But with executive functions, they are able to self-regulate and self-motivate towards their learning, and we can bring more project-based learning and more non-verbal and verbal working memory practices into the classroom. So really, it just starts at education. So that's my role, is to go into these schools and educate them on what ADHD and executive function truly are. And the name of the game is practicality. So what can they do the very next day to bring executive functioning principles into their classroom with no added expenses? They don't have to buy any workbooks or buy any special things. They just present the information, bring some various practices into the classroom each and every day, so the kids get more engaged in their learning, because it's not just moment by moment, listen, write it down, memorize it later when I'm studying. There's better ways to get kids emotionally invested in their work via self-regulation and self-motivation. So it's all about practicality and finding new ways to lecture, new ways to present information, new ways for the students to engage with what they're learning. And that all revolves around the self-regulation, self-motivation of executive function. So it all starts at the education professional development level.
Speaking of education and professional development, is more attention being brought to ADHD in the college setting, or in the master's program settings?
Like for individuals going into school?
Correct.
Right.
No, it's not. No. Unless the schools use their funding to bring in people like me to train the schools, then they're getting no education on it at all.
Wow.
And I don't want to speak for every program. Every program's different, obviously,
Right.
but 99% of them do not coach on ADHD and executive functioning. If they do, it's thrown in on, a very short little lecture.
Wow.
So when you go to the school, you approach the principal at the school, talk with them tell us your approach, because we're interested in learning how to get our kindness program into more schools. And I know we're talking about partnering together to get into the school systems that you're in, but how do you approach it and get that connection with them? Share that.
So far, honestly, it's been, I obviously have my website and my Instagram, but it's been mostly word of mouth. So what tends to happen is people will attend my professional development, and then they'll just go back and tell, people in their personal lives, their friends, their mom friends, their dad friends, and those sorts of things. And then those people will then go to their supervisory staff, their leadership team, and be like, hey, we got to bring this guy in. I heard from my friend's school 2 towns over that this was a game changer for her, and now she's seeing better grades, more engagement, less behaviors, better test scores, less fighting, more socialization, all of those things. So far it's just been word of mouth, where the teachers find out about me from someone else. They'll fill out the form on my website, and they'll get my Calendly link. It'll set up a call, and then hopefully from there we're able to schedule something.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that schools are reaching out to you. I mean, because we found it a bit challenging to get our kindness programs into the schools.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, partnering with the schools has been a bit of a challenge, and we're excited to partner with you on this approach, because the more message, the more kindness we can bring to the schools and get them working together, and the kids working together, and knowing that everybody's different. I'm different, you're different. But let's do something together. Let's do a kindness project together. And just, we've seen smiles come out of these kids, like, it makes us it warms our heart when we get inside a school system and make something happen. It really does.
Absolutely. Yeah. Schools are tough. Schools are very tough, and they have their set professional. The way schools are now, with like, oh, these are our PD days, we better sign someone up and check that box so we can make sure we have our PD on those days, where it's not really so much about what's best for the teachers, what's best for the students, what's best for the parents. It's a lot of just the red tape and checking the boxes. Let's make sure we bring these people in on professional development. Yeah. It's an incredibly corrupt system from the bottom up. The second we have politicians dealing with our education, that's when that it's going to be all about money and corruptiveness and things like that on both sides of the aisle. So it's a real mess. But yeah, the more that we partner up on things and work together on this great message, I think we're gonna change the world.
What is your camp? You have a camp, right? Do you have
Yep.
Camp?
We have
Tell us about your camp.
Yep, we have the GrowNOW Executive Functioning Camp, which we've been running out of our office here in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia region, since 2016. So we've done it every single summer since, and it has just grown and grown and grown. So it's a real executive functioning intensive. So kind of a quick way to describe it is students meet at our office in the morning, and we do a large-scale group lesson on executive functioning, sort of the trip that's to come that day, what to expect, different social executive functioning things and life skills, money management, delaying gratification, all of those things. So all the kids meet in the morning, and we do large-scale lessons and future planning and setting goals for the day. We also do individual work with each student, and then we go on the trip for the day. So whether we go to the King of Prussia Mall out here, which is one of the biggest malls.
Oh boy.
Valley Forge Park.
Oh boy.
We always have a swimming day. We take them out into the town. So we take them all over the place, and then we return back to the office at the end of the day, and we do another large-scale meeting and one-on-one work with the students. So it's a real executive functioning intensive on getting them out in the environment, in the real world, in the natural environment to practice these skills.
What age do you start that at?
Elementary school age, so first grade.
Okay. Have you thought about creating one of those for parents?
That'd be cool. That'd be fun. Let's do it.
I know somebody that would go.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's do it. Sign me up.
He would be all in.
I love kids, man. I love learning too, so I think it's great. So anything that we missed, anything that you want to share with the group listening today?
I would just say overall, just be very aware that the vast majority of information on the internet is pure pseudoscience. There was just an actual study done on, I think 90% of TikToks and Instagram reels and information on social media on ADHD were completely false. We've mentioned his name already, Dr. Russell Barkley. If you want real information, go to him. Dr. George McCloskey, Sarah Ward from Cognitive Connections, and Christine Jacobson from Cognitive Connections. My podcast partner, Ryan Wexelblatt, the ADHD dude. Go to the actual sources. Don't go on parent Facebook groups and be like, hey, what's everyone's opinion on medication? So all you're going to get is horror stories of appetite and mood swings and this and that. Don't be asking people their opinions on medication. Go to the doctors and get real factual based information on medication. There's so much stuff out there that's not helpful. All this gentle parenting, permissive parenting, and connection seeking behaviors and pathological demand avoidance. There's so much nonsense out there that just is not real, is not evidence-based, and it's leading parents astray. And this whole parenting influencer thing, spreading this constant idea of the perfect parent, the perfect child, it makes every parent feel like they're failing. So I talk to parents all the time, and they're like, oh, my kids are always fighting, so much sibling fighting. That's completely normal, and that's not a reflection of your parenting. Your child's homework output, them getting along with their siblings, all of that is not a reflection of your parenting, period. The only thing that is how many different things is your child, getting involved in? Or are they waking up, coming to school, coming home, staying home? If they are, that's a problem. We need varied experiences and play. Your kid needs to be playing outside in nature every single day, unsupervised, out and about playing. That is so unbelievably important. So bring back play, bring back varied experiences, give them a real 90s summer this summer, screen free, get them out and about, playing, chasing riding bikes around, chasing the ice cream man, get them out there, because that's the best thing for kids. Give kids their childhoods back.
I love that.
I love that too.
So we always, when I would take vacation when I was an executive and working, and we'd take 2 weeks off, we did a thing called the Bellezza Olympics. So we plan out events, and we just have the kids outside. We have swimming events, we have kickball events, just all fun stuff, keeping them going, and always trying to find something that they really like to do too. So I'm all for that. I think it's a great way to help the kids. So and help families. I mean, the more parents could getting parents out there too, and getting them away from his computer. I mean, we have screen time issues
Keeping
too.
parents away from social media.
I mean,
You got it.
One thing I'm committed to is I'm not on social media, but I mean, we have to be because of what we're doing. But other than that, we're not on social media because of to share information.
It's a time stealer.
Time stealer, it really is. So, but
I think one of the things I said recently was screens do not make kids safe, smart, and social. They make them depressed, dormant, and dependent. So not the 3 S's, the 3 D's. So social media makes people more antisocial. And if we remember, social media was created for kids in college, where you can meet someone you can meet someone freshman year and not run into them again until senior year, because colleges are so massive. But now for kids in 18 and below, who go to school every day and see the exact same kids every single day, why do they need social media? They don't. It's literally creating depression, and it's fueling this horrible youth mental health crisis.
One other question I did have for you, because we hear a lot about is that parents send their kids to school, but then they decide to do homeschooling. What are your thoughts on homeschooling?
So every homeschool is different. Every if you're the parent, if the child has ADHD and you're the parent who's going to be the teacher, you might want to second guess that. You might want to get them in some kind of pod where you're hiring a teacher, whatever. It's going to be very, very hard for your ADHD child to see mom or dad as no longer mom and dad, and you're now the teacher. So that's going to create a lot of problems. You might want to get them in some kind of pod. But like we said earlier, now with schools and the rise of ed tech and personal laptops and kids in kindergarten getting iPads, in some cases, homeschooling is better. I don't blame them to get away from all the ed tech and all the nonsense. Every homeschool is different, so it all depends on exactly what the homeschool looks like and what the other options are for that child. So that's a pretty loaded question there.
Yeah.
I think I have seen a trend, though, toward more schools going toward taking the phones away from their students when they come in the door, but they're still giving them access to screen time.
Correct.
And whether they have controls on it or not, they're still getting into things that they shouldn't get into.
Exactly. So getting rid of the phones obviously is step one. You have to do that. Kids can't have phones at schools. That's nonsense.
I was happy to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, but step 2 is getting rid of ed tech, because it's been a massive failure, and there's tons of evidence to back that up. So until you get rid of the school laptops, then we can have a real conversation.
Yes. Right. So what's next for Grow ADHD? ADHD, I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah. So I have a book coming out in January called The Executive Functioning Playbook. So that'll be a great book. It'll launch along with a workbook as well. So it'll be a book plus a workbook together, launched together. So that's very exciting. And just check out my website, GrowNOWADHD.com, my Instagram @GrowNOWADHD. Fill out the form. It'll get you on my Calendly. You'll set up a call directly with me. There's no admin, there's no secretary. You'll talk directly to me before moving forward. I have, my calendar for this upcoming school year is already packed with travel and places to go and presentations to do. So I'm excited to keep traveling the world and educating others.
Making a difference in the world.
For you. You've made it.
Just like you guys are.
Made a great difference. And we're honored to have you with us, and we're excited for Children's Awareness Month and actually Fatherhood Awareness Month too. This is so great to have you for to share your thoughts and how to really help kids and families. I mean, it's so important. I mean, children are so special, and they need to be cared for the right way. And you gave some great advice today, so we thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
So, and
of course, thanks for having me.
My lovely wife has a wonderful closing message to share.
As we recognize Children's Awareness Month, I have to read this, I'm sorry.
No, please.
Let's remember that every child is a story still being written. When we lead with kindness, we help them write chapters filled with hope, courage, and connection. The little things we do today can shape a brighter tomorrow for them and for all of us.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And we always finish. We have a family motto that we like to finish with. Our family motto is, "Today is the best day of your life. And
nice.
Tomorrow will be even better." So let's say it together for everybody. Today is
the best day of your life, and tomorrow will be even better.
And when we added to that is life
is better with you.
I like that.
I believe kids, they need to be here with us. And
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
Today is better with you. That's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Kids need to hear that more.
They
Because that's one thing that's big about ADHD is kids with ADHD need to feel a sense of purpose.
They do.
And that's another real detriment of being screen addicted is they don't end up having a purpose. They're just controlling an avatar on a screen all day. When kids feel a sense of purpose to their family, to their community, there's hundreds of years of research on chores and jobs and internships and volunteering. When your child feels a sense of purpose and a sense of belonging, like they don't need constant prompting and parents on their back all the time, and they can feel a true sense of purpose, that's what leads to the best outcome. So I love that. Today is better with you. Kids need to hear that.
They do.
Yeah,
They do.
we all do.
Yeah.
You got it.
Thank you so much.
I don't want to end this. It's been such a great time talking to you. Wow.
Yeah, well, keep in touch, guys. Yeah,
Yeah,
you guys are amazing. We're going to work together on a lot of things.
Absolutely.
You guys have my cell phone number, my email. Please keep in touch with me as much as possible.
We will.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Mike.
Best to you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you for spending time with us today.
If you like today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use the information. And remember, a little bit of kindness goes a long way, especially for those kids with ADHD. See you next time.